Hey everybody, I'm Jason Mefford and I'm back with Brad Miller and we're walking a spiritual path. And today we thought we would talk about taking a path with heart. So there is a reason, obviously, why we are calling this podcast Walking a Spiritual Path, right?
Mhm.
Because there is a path, and in almost every ancient tradition, that is one of the metaphors that is used, right? Of kind of taking the path to ascension, the path to enlightenment, different terms that kind of come up here. And the fact that we're walking, it's not a run. Sometimes we're running a little bit, but sometimes it's kind of slow. So there's a lot of imagery that we really like from that. But one of the terms that comes up quite often is taking a path with heart.
Mhm.
And so we thought we would talk about that today. Because I know Brad, you had kind of brought
Mhm.
this up again because it's one of the things that Don Juan Matus talked a lot about, of
Mhm.
taking a path with heart, taking the good red road, are some things that he kind of said. And I think you've been rereading some of the books that have some of his wisdom in it. So I don't know
Mhm.
if you want to kind of jump into that a little bit, and then, like I said, we just kind of get going on what does it mean to take a
Mhm.
path with heart.
Yeah. So we're talking about the book, the Carlos Castaneda books, um, where Carlos writes about experiences with Don Juan Matus. Um, we'll leave it at that for this episode. Um,
Well, and what we will say though is just to set Carlos never met Don Juan. Uh, the wisdom in those books from Don Juan is from Don Juan.
Mhm.
The experiences were someone else who Carlos learned about and wrote as if he were the apprentice. Carlos was not the apprentice, but a lot of the things in the books are true. The experiences and especially the teachings of Don
Mhm.
Juan are accurate. So I just always
Yeah.
feel like I have to kind of set the record straight a little bit because I know the real story behind it. And so even though we usually refer to them as the Castaneda books because that's how you can find them,
Mhm.
um, and
Yeah.
bless Carlos for putting them out into the world.
Mhm.
But yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
and now I'm going
So
to shut up.
no, that's fine. We love hearing you talk, Jason. Um, but yeah, so the Carlos in the books, Don Juan talks about the idea of walking up the path that you walk. Um, and like you say, he specifically says that you want to walk a path with heart. But the first point I guess that he makes is the fact that all paths, all roads lead to the same place. No matter what you do, no matter how great of a life you lead or less great of a life you lead or whatever you decide to do, the choices you make, whatever it is, for everyone, the path ends in one same place. You will be exiting the planet, right? At some point, you will be leaving, taking leave, and there's going to be a hole in the ground or something like that you know, with the body in it. You're not getting out of here alive, in other words, right? So nothing that you do ultimately matters, if you want to think of it that way, because you're still going to end up at the same spot, right? However, Don Juan says that the best path to take, if you want to call it best, but the best path to take is one with heart. So what in the hell does it mean to take a path with heart?
You haven't figured this out yet,
Right. I
Brad?
mean, I think like, like Mario, like you take a path with a little heart and you try like
You're like
level up
getting,
or something or
yeah,
extra
you get
lives or
you're
something.
picking up the little hearts on the video game.
Right. Yeah. Is that what he means? You like, like the door, you go through the different doors and you say, hey, this one has a star on it and this one has I don't know, a triangle on it, and this one has a heart, that's the one to take. Like, what does it mean to take the path with heart? Um, I would say none of those things are true, but I'll let you jump in here and.
Yeah, so obviously this is one that I continue to sit with and continue to learn,
Mhm.
and I have you know, maybe some insights for myself that I've gotten, but this is something that I'm going to continue to learn the whole time I'm on this path, right? But I think one thing that's important, and you know, because Don Juan was a Yaqui shaman, right? So Native American Yaqui Indian shaman, and in that tradition, there's a lot of imagery and things around being a warrior. And so he talks about being a warrior as well and learning how to be a warrior. And that ties in to this somewhat too, along with intention. And so, you know, on the one hand, and again, this is where ancient wisdom makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't make sense too, right? Like all paths lead to death. Well, you tell somebody that, and then they start spinning, and they're like, well, then hold it. Nothing that I do in this world really matters. What does it matter? I just shouldn't do anything. It doesn't really matter. But does it? Right? Yeah, it's true that we're all going to exit the planet. We're going to go through a physical death, separation of physical body and light body, which is just normal. We've done it before. There's nothing to be afraid of, right? You still exist, right? And you don't have to believe me, but go if you want to go look up on YouTube about near-death experiences, all the people who have experienced it and kind of come back, and you'll see that we don't cease to exist on death. But let's talk about it from a warrior perspective, right? Is and again, it's an analogy because most of us now are not picking up swords and spears and going out and fighting or guns, you know, as a warrior like we have in previous lives, right? But it's still a good reminder, and it's a way of kind of hitting deep in our soul because we remember. I remember times when I was 3D warrior. I remember some of the things that I've gone through, some of the things that I've done when I've held a sword in my hand, right? And so to me, this is a reminder because I am a warrior in a lot of ways, a lot of different ways, right? Some that I can share and some that I can't. But we'll just say I'm a warrior or I choose to be a warrior. So how does this, tie in with the path to death and taking a path to death with heart? Think about a warrior, okay? If you're going into a battle, let's say, for example, there's the movie 300, right, about Sparta and the 300 Spartans who got massacred. All of them died because there was literally like a million on the other side and 300 of them. But there's a difference as a warrior in the path that the warrior takes when you get up in the morning and you know you're going into a battle that I'm remembering that you're not going to make it out of physically. The path ends today in this battle. And there's two ways you can go in, right? You can say, oh, we're not going to win. I'm going to give up. I'm going to run away. I'm going to be a scared little baby. Or you can be a warrior. And you can say, you know what? Today is a good day to die. Today is a good day to die. And you go into the battle knowing that you're going to die, but it doesn't matter because what you're doing, what you're standing for, how you're taking that path to death matters. Because facing the fear as a warrior and not caring and going through it to death, if that's what it takes, is a much more honorable way, let's say, of dying. And, as I say that, and the, analogy that comes behind it, but it's also a lesson for us too, because it's something else that Don Juan taught. It's a good day to die. If we can finally get to the point where we fear death not at all, and we can allow that fear to be completely gone, right? So that every day we're doing what we need to do. That's one way of taking a path with heart. And now I'm going to be quiet for a minute because I got more where I can go too. But that's, I think, at least one thing that I have learned, related to taking the path to death with heart as a warrior, that I think is an important tie into and one of the ways to think about this.
Mhm. Yeah. Don Juan talks a lot about being a warrior in the books, what that means, the process, how you become a warrior, the way of a warrior, all those things like that. Um, and so when I've again, I'm still in the middle. This is, I don't know, I'm second, third, fifth time I've gone through this series. I don't know. But and then currently in the middle thing. So a lot of this stuff, like you said at the beginning, there's no definitive anything here. This is kind of just what is percolating and where things are kind of popping up as we go here. But um, so for me, when I'm thinking about a path with heart, I'm thinking about something where you're experiencing peace. Maybe you're filled with love. You are um and it kind of goes along with the fact that you're not feeling fear as you go along. You're there for the ride, for the journey. You are the idea of it's life's a journey, not a destination, but you're just kind of there appreciating, experiencing what's happening, being present in the moment. Um, but something again, just something that's kind of bringing you this peace, this sense of tranquility, this bliss, you know. Um, when you can find that as you're walking along this path, to me, that is the goal. Those are the experiences, those are the feelings you want to have.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, again, just like with any ancient wisdom, any sacred text, the words can have so many different meanings too,
Mhm.
right? So taking a path with heart, where's the heart? Well, the heart is right here. It represents the center chakra of the chakras that are physically associated with our physical body, right?
Mhm.
It's our center, but it's also the place where we feel love, or we associate heart with love, right? So taking a path with heart, and again, we're just going to throw a bunch of things out
Yeah.
there, right? Because it means a lot of different things. And so just pick up whatever is resonating with you today. So taking a path with heart, we could also say, kind of like you were saying, is it's taking it with love, right? You're doing it from a place of love,
Mhm.
right? It's experiencing that peace and love along the journey, right? Instead of the whole way along. And you've been with people like that, I'm sure, on hikes before, right? And you're like, "Yeah, okay, I'm not going on a hike with you anymore, right? Because there's some people that just kind of complain the whole time They can't enjoy, what's around them. And so a lot of people take a path, but they're not taking a path with heart if they're complaining, if they're ungrateful, if they're angry all the time, right? And
Mhm.
so, that's something else to consider. And you said, finding your bliss, which, again, that if people are familiar with Joseph Campbell and the hero's myth, he talks about finding your bliss, right? Which again, bliss is a beautiful word that we don't use very much anymore. But if you're going to take a path with heart, why shouldn't you have some fun and have some bliss on that path too, right? We need to have fun along the way. And again, since we're bringing Don Juan into this episode as well, Don Juan is a jokester. He plays some pretty gnarly jokes, still does. Okay. And so he likes to have a good time too, right? And so again, from his life as well, is it's like, don't take yourself too serious either. Have some fun along the way. Yes, there's sacredness to certain things, there's seriousness to certain things, but why not have fun along the way as well?
Mhm. Yeah, I tell my daughter this all the time. Like she gets really serious about stuff. I'm like, dude, lighten up. Like just have fun. Just,
Yeah, yeah, because again, it's like um, this life is serious, but it also doesn't matter
super
in the
serious.
super serious, man. But it also, in the eternal scheme of things, it's a blip. It's a blip, right, in your total existence. And so, why not have fun? Why not experiment, try things, do things different ways? That's how we learn, right? And in fact, it helps everybody in the whole universe because as we're learning, the universe is learning as well, right? As we're doing this. So, I think we should have, and it's something that I forget a lot of times, is just to have fun with it because we do get
Mhm.
heavy sometimes with, oh my gosh, I got to do this. I got to take the trash out. Oh, you got this client over here that's giving me trouble, right?
Mhm.
Because I was even having that this morning, right? I was working on this issue for a client, and it was tax related, and it was like it's a chinga. It's just a clusterfuck with this one return, and it's kind of like you know, wish you could charge taxes by the hour, right? But you don't. And so, part of me was kind of like, oh man. But then the other part of me was like, but look at all you're learning from this, right? Yeah, it's taking you a little bit longer, but that's okay. Right now, look at all the things that you have learned. And so I just start playing with it. Well, what if I do it this way? What if I do it that?
Mhm.
Even in some 3D things and just try to have some more fun about it or to stop and say, yeah, it's kind of a burden for me to go through this or a challenge to go through it, but wow, I'm grateful that I'm going through it because now my client doesn't have to go through it, right? Because it would be like 10 times the amount
Mhm.
of stress or frustration for them if they were doing it than if I'm doing it.
Mhm.
Right. I'm sure it's the same way with you, Brad, as a lawyer,
Mhm.
because I know I've done some stuff on my own and some stuff with a lawyer, and I'll tell you, it's a lot easier with a lawyer, right? But we can kind of keep that because I think it's not just any path we should take with heart, right? So I know this is a spiritual podcast, and we're talking about spiritual stuff, but even our vocation, the way we deal with our relationships with other people, all of these things, can we do those things with heart as well and maybe apply some of these same things there? Because again, even though we might think it's only 3D, it's not just 3D what we're doing. We're doing something deeper. We're
Mhm.
serving in different ways. And so, can we start to see every part of our life as a path that we want to take with heart too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, think of your career path, that you decide to do, the jobs that you take. I know um, a lot of professionals are, kind of have this idea of I would move up the ladder. I've got this path. I would maybe start entry level, then I move up to a little bit more intermediate level stuff. And then eventually maybe I get into some sort of a partner sort of a role, junior partner or something like that, and move up until and things like that. But a lot of times along the way, people feel burnout. They feel disappointed. They
Mhm.
feel um, that just this is not for them. Like, that maybe that what they thought that they wanted or what they thought the ultimate goal was at the end of the day is not what they really want. And so, there's a choice there. Do you continue along that same path that you're going towards the next level up to, this partnership or whatever it is up there? Or do you take a left hand turn and you follow what sounds fun? You follow where your interests lie. You follow where maybe the signs are telling you where you kind of feel drawn to. Maybe even though maybe it's technically a step down from where you are, or whether it technically is, or if maybe people will just see it as that. People say, well, you're no longer on this path now. You're lesser professional because of that. You've taken a different route. You were on this path to partner, and now you decide to go on your own. It happens a lot in law. Now people see you a lesser lawyer because you are not part of this firm vision triangle pyramid scheme thing that's going on. You kind of go on your own. But frankly, who cares? First of all, what about that? What you want to do is take the path that speaks to you, that you're going to enjoy, that's going to bring you bliss. I like that word a lot. That's going to bring you bliss. That's going to make you happy. Because what's life? What's a career doing something you hate? Doing something you wake up every day miserable, dreading going into the office or, whatever it is you have to do, the clients you're facing, the work you're doing, you just hit, I mean, I did that when I started, early in my law practice. I woke up one morning and I realized I hated the idea that I had to go to court that day. Like, oh my God, I got to get up and go to court today. And I just was not looking for it at all. And to me, that was a sign I needed to stop doing court work, stop doing litigation work. But it's not just that. It could be the path that you're on, the career that you're headed towards. Um, it could be completely changing what you're doing, which I know is really tough for those of us who have gone to schooling for professional educations, degrees, law school, or you got, an MBA or whatever you might have gotten. And all of a sudden you're like, maybe I should want to do something else that doesn't really need any of that. I want to own a flower shop,
Mhm.
you know? Maybe that is the path with heart for you.
Well, and it can be, and I think that's why deciding which path to get on, but also how our attitude on the path, I think as well, right?
Mhm.
Like for you, waking up one morning and all of a sudden realizing, hey, I don't want to do court work anymore. Okay, right? That's what spoke to you at that time. So that was the inspiration you got. So try something different, right?
Yep.
Play with it, do something different, right? I mean, if you feel like you need to, if somebody needs to completely quit their career and go own a flower shop, hey, if that's what you feel like inspiration is telling you, then run towards it. But I think this is an interesting point too about the paths is, are you running away from something
Mm.
or are you
Yep.
running towards something?
Mhm.
And I think that's an important thing. And again, from this, metaphor of the path is I see a lot of people just
Mhm.
running away because they don't want the responsibility. Oh, it's
It's
too
hard.
hard.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Let's go back to our warrior. How is that person showing up? They're the one that's a scared little chicken that's running away from the battle instead of going into the battle, right? And once people start doing that, they start doing it in other places in their life as well, right? And so, again, if if people want to make a change, but make sure that you're running towards something and you're not running away from something.
Mhm.
Um, because again, that's back with the path with heart, right? If you feel inspired and you need to start a flower shop and you are really excited about that and it feeds you your bliss, hey, that MBA you don't need anymore, it's going to make you a better small business person, right? Okay, right? And maybe again, that's the path, that's the crooked path that you had to take to get straight on where you needed to go. Um,
Yeah.
which again is it's an interesting, irony, but how are you showing up on the path? Because I think another part that goes into this is, the intention behind it, is, well, what's your intention for taking the path? If you're taking a career path just to make a ton of money, maybe that's not the right intention. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. Right. But if your sole goal is to make money or to be famous, those things aren't going to make you happy at the end
Mhm.
of the day. So what's your intention? What's your intention? Not that making money is a bad thing. I'm not saying that at all.
Mhm.
But if that's your sole intention, right, then maybe you need to question it. We see a lot of times with people who take a spiritual path. Again, what's your intention behind it? Are you just curious? And there's nothing wrong with curiosity,
Sure.
right? But there's a lot of people who start, and when things start to get tough, when things start to get challenging, what do? They turn and run.
Mhm.
Um, so, what really is the intention that you have, I think goes into a lot of this heart with path with heart too.
Sure. Yeah. No, as you're saying that the thought, kind of the idea, talk about heart, but the idea of courage is seen as you having heart, courage,
Mhm.
and so that goes towards the warrior, towards charging in as opposed to retreating away, running away. Um, so I think that tie in there too. We talk about, lion-hearted, or, that he has a lot of heart because he was willing to go forward, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, and again, if you go back to Wizard of Oz, what did the lion character
mhm.
want from the wizard? A heart,
That's right. His
courage,
courage.
courage, right?
Hmm.
So it's yeah, there's a lot of, and these aren't by chance that so many of these words mean what they mean, and that imagery is used or certain idioms are come up with because they're clues. They're clues for us to kind of learn the truths and figure out, what we're going to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of what I got. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that. Um,
So no, I mean, again, and it's the, yeah, I'll share something else here then too. So it's, most paths, it doesn't really matter. You can start and stop and it's not a big deal, right? You can experiment over here a little bit and then this and then that until you figure out and you find your way, right? As long as it's, again, you've got the right intention. Another story, and I'm not sure if it's in the books for sure or not, but that, when you get on certain paths, like certain parts of the spiritual path, the black diamond trails when it gets to
skiing.
spirituality. Okay. is Don Juan, since we're bringing him up in this topic to tell you a little bit more. One thing that he did was said, okay, you going to come with me? And if you are, he got down on the ground. He drew a line on the ground with his finger. He said, if you're going to follow me, you jump the line. But you jump the line, there's no going back. So what are you going to do? Because sometimes there are points in our life where we have to jump the line. That's another idiom that we have. You got to cross the line. You got to jump the line. You got to be serious about it, right? Is that a lot of times when you make commitments, when you decide to go a certain way, there's no going back because you can't unknow what you know. And so, like I said, there are certain times as well, and not to scare anybody, right? Because we're all warriors here. But it's like at home when I've gone off to battle before, right? There is effectively that it's a great showing in the movie 300, right? It shows that well because those men knew they were going off to die. They left their families knowing that they're probably not coming back. And there was a scene where, in fact, one of the men's sons was in the group, and the general King Lioness said, "No, we're not taking your son because you need an heir. We're not taking him." And the man said, "No, my son knows what he's getting into, and I'm so proud of him, and he's coming with us." And obviously, they both died. But there was that point where there's no going back at this point. Once you know things, once you start down certain paths, you need to keep going. And I only bring that up, again, it's not to scare anybody, but I think sometimes I've seen a lot of people who start and then walk away. And that's not the way of the warrior. And that's one thing I think that Don Juan did very good of teaching and continues to teach is be a warrior. Remember who you are. You are a warrior. Now just show up and act like a warrior. And remember what it's like to be that warrior. And take that path to death with heart as a warrior. And die as a warrior because that's the only honorable death. And with that, silence went over the podcast, and everybody went, "Hold
What
it!
happened?
Are we experiencing technical difficulties?"
The sound just went out. Um, yeah, flicker, but no. Some yeah, definitely some deep stuff to think about there.
Yeah, and again, for everybody listening, it's like we threw out a bunch of stuff here today. Take, don't take. It's up to you. Um, find some other meaning. Again, maybe taking a path with heart means something different to you, and that's okay,
Sure.
right? But what does it mean to each of you? What paths do you need to take? What paths are you on maybe that you're not doing with heart, and you could change and start doing them with heart? Maybe other paths that you need to take, and move off of some path that you're currently on, because that's where you'll find more of your bliss, more of your peace, be able to have that love in your life. What's really your intention behind why you're doing some of these paths, as well, because it's a little subtlety that I'm learning more and more is our intention makes all the difference. Two people can be walking on the same path right? But their intentions will be different. And because of that, they each have different experiences, even though they're physically experiencing exactly the same things in the 3D, they're not the same experiences.
I'm sure everyone has experienced that driving down the highway. You've got the people
Mhm.
who are just kind of taking their time and driving real slow and, enjoying the scenery, as we like to call it. And there's other ones that are just zooming down the highway because they got places to be, people to see. Um, it's the same thing. They're going about it with a different intention.
Yep.
Same thing.
Yep. So there we go. Do it, don't do it, but we would encourage you to take paths with heart. Yeah. However that looks for you. I know it's made a big difference in my life as I've done that. Um, and as I've kind of course corrected over time as well.
Mhm. Yep.
So, with that, everybody, thanks for listening to this episode. Go out and start taking the path with heart this week. And we will see you on our next episode. So, blessings to you, and we'll see you on our next episode.
See ya.